I'm Drew, and this is Evergreen Overland. On this channel, we do gear reviews, showcase vehicle modifications, and present ways Overlanders can outfit themselves for adventure. On today's video, we're going to continue our maintenance round of things, where we are going through this 2005 Toyota Sequoia and getting it up to that 100% capable and reliable level, as well as doing some kind of opportunistic upgrades along the way. In our last couple of videos in this series, we took care of the upgraded Lexus GX460 brake caliber mod that you can do, along with swapping out the brake lines front and back for some extended Crown Performance brake lines, as well as going through and changing out a lot of the fluids in the system to get a baseline on the differentials, the transfer case, the oil in the engine. The brakes, already did a whole flush on that when we did that whole brake job, so that's all clean. And went through and swapped out basically all the things that are going to allow this thing to breathe a little bit better. So new cabin air filter offered by OCD 4-wheel drive that you can check out, because these things didn't come with one for whatever reason. Also under the hood, swapping out the main air filter in the intake, as well as doing the differential breather relocation for the rear of the vehicle up into the back of a recessed hole that you can find in the rear taillight area of the Sequoia. All of these things are just designed to get it to a really confident baseline, so that we know it's not going to break down on us when we're out on the trail away from systems of support, and so that we know that all of the upgrades to the suspension, the modification, and just different capabilities we're going to be investing into this vehicle are not made a moot point by something that's just unreliable and unserviced at its core of being a 250,000-mile 2005 Toyota Sequoia. One of the only things I noticed when first looking over the Sequoia that I knew was going to need some maintenance attention was the steering rack. I noticed it was leaking pretty extensively, and it actually gave me a little bit of negotiation power. I was able to talk the guy down another $500 on it. So make sure that you're looking over things and pointing them out to whoever you're going to be buying your first gen Sequoia to. Maybe get you a little bit of a better deal. We're taking a Freelance Fab OEM and upgraded steering rack today and putting it in the Sequoia. And we're also taking the opportunity to do the same thing with the Freelance Fab steering pump up front, because I might hear a little bit of whirring side to side on it a little bit, but really I just want to make sure this thing's steering is nice and tight. Figured at 250,000 miles, I might as well replace the steering pump while I'm overhauling a lot of this vehicle. Funny enough, my '06 double cab Tundra has also developed a leak in the steering rack, so I ended up purchasing 2 of these steering racks from Freelance. I'm hoping by the end of it, I'll be somewhat of a pro, because I will have done 2 in a very short amount of time. I've got my trusty Haynes manual for torque specs and just general, maintenance questions on the rig. So what Freelance Fab does is they source these OEM steering racks from all sorts of different places, and they have a team that goes through them and replaces all of the seals with higher pressure seals. Really does a great job of cleaning everything up. All of their kits now come with an in-house poly bushing for all of the 3 bushings on there, as well as stainless steel sleeves and washers for everything. So mine I bought before they started doing their own poly bushings, so these are the poly bushings they originally had sourced. I'm not too worried about it, but it is nice that their new setups all come with that stainless steel to them. So finding high quality, reliable steering racks in the world of the first gen Sequoias and Tundras has just been a well-known issue. So it's really awesome that Freelance is refurbing these at such a high caliber. They offer a 1-year no-leak warranty on these bad boys. They come with all the poly bushings already pre-installed, as well as the inner tie rod ends already pre-installed. And to top it all off, they do a nice paint job of a high solids paint on this, just to make it shine a little bit better. Stepping into the steering pump, kind of the same story. They source and rebuild all the OEM steering pumps, so that is also awesome as well. These racks come in at $750 with a $150 core charge if you return your rack within 60 days, and it's, not too rusted out and too beaten up. So that brings down the cost of the rack to $600. The current price on the steering pumps is $325. I don't know if they offer a core refund on these or not, but I'm betting I put it on the screen once I figure it out. Now I went down to Toyota and got some ATF, so I got 3 quarts. That should be enough. I've also pre-soaked down all of the bolts I'm going to be taken out with PB Blast, at least underneath on the steering rack I did, so hopefully that goes well. Now, this is not the only thing I'm knocking out in this video. We are also going to replace the OEM outer tie rod ends, as well as some OEM lower ball joints, because if you don't know, there was a recall on these, and they can snap off on you, so you want to make sure you're doing them on a regular maintenance pattern. I know these were done at one point because of the recall. Other than that, I don't know if they were ever done again. So for some reassurance, I am definitely going to be swapping out those, along with some new castle nuts and some new bolts for them. In doing all this, I'm just hoping that this is going to go a long way in making this thing a whole bunch more reliable, knowing everything's been done on the steering components, and just be more robust and ready to incorporate all of the new modifications and additional weight that this thing's going to have when we start getting some of the fun stuff. From what I understand, you want to make sure that your steering wheel stays centered during this whole procedure so that it makes it easier to get it aligned, or at least drive to the alignment shop after. So that pretty much concludes the how-to section of this video, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You're going to want to watch the videos that I linked below to the people I'm following showing me how to do this job. This is not going to be a step-by-step how-to video for anybody's needs. Alright, from what I understand, you can take a crude measurement from the outside edge here to a like point between the two, because they need to be identical to fit anyway. 14 1/4, the edge of this. Now you could do it that way, or you could do it by, I guess, cranking all the way to one side, cranking all the way to the other, counting revolutions. Every time I do that, I don't have the attention span. I literally end up thinking that I'm one revolution off either way I go. So I'm going to say I'm about 14 1/2 there. I mean, pretty damn close to 14 1/2 there. So just check a couple of spots. 24 3/4 plus, 24 3/4 plus. So these are already just basically spot on. And I honestly wonder if they center that for you. I'm sure they probably do. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be really close. You have to reuse this little rubber boot here. So I'm going to take it off and give it a good clean up. Couple of things cleaned up, make sure everything thread-wise is going to want to go in. These guys up and out of the way as much as possible. There is a washer on the back side of this, so I'm going to get that on there. So I'm going to ooga-dooga this thing up, get it seated into the steering shaft, is what I'm calling it, and get it up, perched where it needs to up here. I'm going to need to feed it that way first. Let's make it happen. All right, I got my new tie rod ends here, so I am going to first thread on the little keeper nut here. I am not going to install it into this guy yet, because I am going to dismantle and do my suspension and everything on this. But for now, I am going to put these in place. I think I needed 21 revolutions on this side. 19, 20, 21. just because I'm not leaving this fully torqued down and everything, gonna mark a paint line on there. I'm gonna do something I never do, leave myself a little bit of time to clean up. So I'm gonna do that, and then we'll tackle the power steering pump later tonight. All right, you'll see both of these right here. On many, or at least on some of the videos I watched where people were doing this swap, you had to remove this piece right here and swap it over to the new unit. But on this, since it's OEM, they've already replaced the O-ring on the inside, and you don't have to worry about that. So there we go, old and new. Look forward to swapping these in right now. Next, and arguably one of the most important things we're going to do on this steering and stabilization refresh, is going to be new OEM lower ball joints. It is well known that there's a recall out there in all the first gen Sequoias and Tundras, and these things need to be swapped out. If these fail on you going down the freeway at high speed, definitely a bad situation. Even if they were to fail on you at low speed, you're going to really damage a decent amount of stuff under your vehicle, just making it way easier to change these things out on a pretty regular basis with some new ones. It is also pretty well known that OEM is the way to go. We're going to get in here, disconnect this from the spindle, swap this out from the lower control arm, and then probably just leave it in the lower control arm, because in upcoming videos, before we get it off of its jack stands, we're going to dive much deeper into the suspension of this vehicle. When swapping out the lower ball joints, from my understanding, you want to use new castle nuts, new cotter pins, and you want to swap out the 4 bolts that attach this to the lower spindle. Let's get into it. That's really as simple as it is to swap out those ball joints. Just get them out of there, bolt the new ones in, torque everything down to spec, and you're good to go. But I'm going to leave those out right now because I really would rather not damage the boot on them or any of the threads or anything like that in the next step in my process on the Sequoia. Now, other than bleeding the system, that pretty much wraps up my steering and stabilization refresh on the 05 Sequoia. I am considering some extended sway bar end links that I bought for the Tundra, throwing them on the Sequoia. But if I do install these, I'm going to be doing it in one of the next videos where I do a complete overhaul to the suspension and start doing some fun modifications to the vehicle. I'm really getting excited, especially for the suspension, and then after the suspension is going to come tires and doing some projector retrofits to the headlights and all sorts of other stuff that I have planned for the Sequoia. Put a comment below. I definitely want to hear from you guys. Subscribe to the channel, and also go over, follow the link down below to go over to the website and join the email list, because I'm going to be launching something really cool here in a little bit, and I want you to be aware of it. Other than that, I appreciate you watching. Have a good day.